Welcome, sir. This is my, I guess, third or fourth podcast. And this podcast, we have kept the name as Know Your CCM Candidate, that is Central Council Member Candidate. The person requires no introduction. Madhukar, CA Madhukar, sir, my mentor. But for the next 20-25 minutes, I'll take that attachment away and try to be more specific with the subject. A brief introduction about Madhukar, sir. He has been into practice for the last 36 years, a long journey, a quite long journey. Started as a sole proprietorship concern, then partnership firm somewhere in early 2000, and presently in 2024, the firm is now called as HNA and Co LLP, spread across 14 plus cities. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Vishal.
Sir, you have already been part of ICAI top-notch body, Central Council member. Normally, the journey goes as a branch, then RCM, then CCM, but in your case, it was directly CCM, one in 2013 to 2010 to 2013, and
Yeah.
the second part was 2016 to 2019.
Correct.
So, what were your experiences in the first term, 2010 to 2013?
Uh, the idea of going to the Central Council was basically because I felt that there was a raw deal to the students. That was the reason why I went. But once I went there, I was in the exam committee in the first 2 years, and we were able to do a number of reforms. The major reforms, in fact, today I'm in Coimbatore, and we had a chance to meet Ramaswamy, who was there as a president in my second term in the exam committee, and he himself mentioned what great things we did at that time. And one major thing was that we gave 15 minutes extra time to the students, and also we made the paper setters write the exam for 3 hours. So we sensitized them to see that it is not just some very tough paper and all, because when we started asking them to write it, Board of Studies is a check on the paper length, etc. So we asked the Board of Study faculty itself to write the exam, whether they can do it in 3 hours. And then I think everybody got sensitized on the fact that our papers were unduly long and sometimes very complicated. So this was one reform which took place, which ensured. Yeah, this was in the first term.
2010 to 2013.
Yeah. Second was that we also ensured that Xerox copies were given. There were a lot of fears. If we give Xerox copies, there will be unending litigation, lakhs of litigation, but nothing such. I was very convinced that this was a very forward-looking move, and we should have done it decades back. What was required at that time was that the evaluators be trained and also made aware that from now on students can take you to court. Of course, they don't take the paper evaluators to court, they take the institute to the court, but institute will in turn go back to the paper evaluators. So this brought a lot of accountability on the evaluators. Also, the system of evaluating the evaluators in those 2 years, we took it in a very serious way. We weeded out some of the, you can say, non-performing assets in that to some extent, and also put some rules on age so that we don't have people who are too aged who are still continuing. So the quality of evaluation certainly improved after those 2 years. Other than this, we had a number of reforms for the students, like we said the total length of the study material has to come down. So if it was 5,000 pages, it should come down to 2,500 pages. That's what we said, but it didn't come out down that much, but 2/3 was what it went. Started, and also the move towards understanding rather than memorizing was also started in those years. And I think slowly these things are happening now also. So this is what happened in the first term,
2010 to 2013.
I had about 40 reforms in the exam committee, and I submitted a report also. Even today, I was told by Pramod Boob, who was there in the last council, who was in exam, that I'm still using your reforms material for future reforms.
So if at all I were to put that, I'm only focusing on the first term, 2010 to 2013. Obviously, we would try to do a lot of stuff. a lot of things in agenda. But if you had something in mind, both for members as well as students, which we are not able to fully achieve. One, for, I mean, for members separately and for students separately, which you had in your mind, which was there in the agenda, but which was not done till 2013. You're only specifically for the first term.
Yeah, yeah. There were not 2, 3 things. There were about 30 things which I took up, because I am one of those who tries many things. And I should tell you, Vishal, I have found that failing is the best way of success. So I had lot of projects, uh, especially from the students' point of view, like memory-based exam itself, evaluators, paper setters training.
Okay.
These things I don't think I was fully successful in, though I used to go for every paper setting. Every time I got a new idea, but then it took time. So there were more unfinished agenda than finished agenda for me, either for the students or for the members. Members, one of the things I always looked at is there is a lot of value available in our field. We are versatile. Chartered accountants are versatile. For example, I myself, I'm an average chartered accountant, failed 4, 5 times in CA, but I chose an area where I had no prior learning. We didn't have central excise in 1986, but I passed my exam in 1987. It was not in my curriculum, but then I became recognized as an expert across India after some 20 years of being in that area. What I realized is chartered accountant very versatile. What we learn is that we can learn anything. We can master anything. That is the biggest advantage of passing a CA course. And therefore, opportunities are there everywhere. So, in 2011, I started a service tax enabler course, and I think around 20,000 people were practicing in service tax for the first time in India by the year 2012. Then, of course, the next term came. We also had an indirect tax certificate course in which I think about 3,000 people got, trained.
I was part of it. I was one of the earlier member who did the certificate course on indirect taxes. When it started, rather if Coimbator's first certificate course where it was about indirect taxes, I was in that particular batch.
Wonderful.
So I remember that.
You would have been a beneficiary. It not only you learned, you made a lot of money from that.
True, sir. So coming to your second tenure, sir. So you had some unfinished agenda on your table when you had your tenure from 2010 to 2013. Obviously, in the back of your mind, there will be these things that, okay, if at all, I don't think so you would have planned your second term because you had to take a gap,
Yes.
which I knew for your firm, and then you came back in 2016 to 2019.
Firm, my daughter's marriage.
Yes.
There were many things. Personal things were also involved.
Okay. So in 2016 to 19, the first part of it, what were the major satisfactory takeaways from the point of view you're delivering to members and to students, and again certain unfinished agenda for members and for students?
Okay, good. See, the first part was that students, again, for me, my love has been always students, because I am one of those who always roots for the underdog. The small fellow I will go for. I will always try to push them up. And students are still getting you can say, wrong ideas. And I also saw there was a distinct flight of students away from CA. And I had tried at that time a lot to see that we put in some ways and means where the evaluation becomes very rational, number one. Number two, I also tried to see if we could have the exam itself in the way of CPA, where I can write a single exam. I can write one paper. Every month I'll write 3 papers, or every quarter I'll write 3 papers.
This has come in a way.
Yes, it has come a bit late. After, remember, you asked me what I started, but it might have happened a little later.
Right.
I was also one of those persons who wanted CRET to be implemented in shorter periods. I think that was also not done.
Okay.
But I will tell you that in the second term, what I achieved actually is I wanted a series of alternative papers in the final, one alternative, maybe 4 or 5 alternatives in group 1 and 4 or 5 alternatives in group
Group
2.
two.
Finally, I was able to push it in Devraj Reddy's period to group 2. So there's the first time we had this set of papers where, say, I am going to go to capital markets, I can go in that area. I want to go to international taxation, I can go to that area. If I want to go to indirect tax, I can take that. So that gave the first time in ICAI history that people were able to look at what is that which is required in the outside world and get prepared at the time of exam itself.
True.
So this was marked, you can say, it was one man army, I got it done.
Super, sir. And
As far as members are concerned, of course, I think you are also a beneficiary of this, as were about 150,000 chartered accountants. We took GST.
I was about
Very
to tell
serious.
that. So
Okay.
we had about that certificate course on GST, and when GST implementation started, we were everyone was very proud that CAs were looked up first by the government to take in charge of educating the professional bodies, the association, the trade beneficiaries, and at that point of time, if I'm not wrong, you are the chairman of
All 3
indirect,
years.
indirect tax committee. So that era and that background material of by ICAI, which was co-authored
Even
by
today.
many faculties,
Even today,
that
it is used.
became Bhagavad Gita for all the CAs.
At least for 1.5 years, it was Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
But let me give you an insight into all these, Vishal. Nothing comes just like that. So we actually proactively did training of the officers in the period before GST was implemented, so that we get offered the GST audit, and that's what happened in the
Early part of it.
in the draft law in 2016. We wrote the study material for the officers to be trained on the model law, and that study material later we made it practical and made it useful as a background material for the practitioners. And it was certainly the best document available for about 1.5 years. There was nobody who could come near the material. Most of the authors actually cut, copied, pasted from that background material, and then of course they added the latest things. But I think that background material, along with the 20 other publications we did, was something which was so useful, and it was free. Not only free for the CS, it was free for anybody.
Everyone.
So that made us the blue-eyed professionals suddenly, and that's the first time I think chartered accountants were looked up to. Otherwise, everywhere chartered accountants were not getting really the respect they should get. And I think that GST was a good time when we could do that particular activity.
So we'll have the discussion about the last areas. But before I move to the next part, again, back to the basic question that there are some certain unfinished agendas, both for the students and members. Obviously, the list would be long. So few things in when you ended your tenure at 2019, which was not finished, maybe 1 or 2 points for members and 1 or 2 points for students.
Okay, good. See, for members, no, I always felt that I should have possibly taken up capacity building, because I realized that it is not so difficult. Actually, it is not so difficult for a central council member, because the impact or the breadth or the support, you have got support of the regional councils to some extent, you have got the support of 250 branches in India. And even if 30-40% of them are onboarded, you are looking at impact on lakhs of members. And I felt that after the GST, we, in 2017-18, we worked it and we actually spread it. After that, possibly I felt that in 2018-19, I should have looked at one more area. Unfortunately, this area was riding so high, and there was so much of
Work to do on that area.
work to do to update all the material, 20 publications. I think I missed that, doing that. There were so many other areas of capacity building which I missed at that time. I also think that one of the things which I always felt very important is it's not that we have to give opportunities to the chartered accountants. We should spend time on building their foundation. It becomes some chartered accountants, after they have passed, say 1 decade might have passed, for some 2 decades would have passed. Actually, they are out of touch. They actually need to be refreshed in some way or the other. And also, the vagaries of the changing environment, the negativity of the news in the papers and in the TV, and the large advent of the behemoths like Google, Amazon, who actually corrupt the mind through the mobile. They are only there to sell something. But that is what we spend time. We end up spending, our youth spend 4 5 hours browsing, and that browsing is actually all being manipulated. So they make us slaves to what they want to say. They put the wrong ideas into us, and therefore we are slowly forgetting that actually our success as professionals comes from being value based, holding up certain values, and these get deteriorated over a period of time. I felt that this was also a focus area which I missed in the last time.
Got it, sir.